We cracked 90s video game. We built a matrix in a console. We rendered 3D worlds using nothing but math. And we even taught the computer how to generate its own stories. 2025 is just about to end, and I think we can go through what we learned and how things have changed. The major topic we covered was computer graphics, where we talk a lot about 3D worlds and how they work. We have vertices and we have edges. And well, that's it. It's actually more common to specify vertices and the triangles they are composing via topology or index buffer. If we need to move a triangle, we apply a very specific matrix to each of its vertices. We are working with vectors here, so we can apply everything to the vertices only and just connect them again afterward to create our geometry. No need to touch the pixels of the lines. When things are in place, we can talk about colors, shading, and lights. In real life, we don't just have a generic cube. We have a cube made of paper, wood, or steel. These materials have certain physical properties, and these can be captured using very special textures as a part of branch of 3D rendering called PBR. This approach is all about simulating how light interacts with surfaces in the real world. To do this, we use a set of textures that describe the surface's personality. We have the albedo map, which is the base color of the material without any lightning or shadows baked in. Then we have the metallic map, which tells the renderer which parts of the surface are metal and which are insulators. The roughness map is crucial because it defines how light scatters. A low roughness looks like a mirror, while high roughness looks matte, like chalk or dry wood. We can have more, such as ambient occlusion maps, to fake the soft shadows that occur in cracks and crevices where light has a hard time reaching. When you combine all these with a normal map, you get that high-end realistic look. Speaking of normal maps, we dedicated some special time to them because they are fascinating. The fact that you are seeing anything at all is solely due to light. Light rays are being bounced toward your eye and processed in your brain to form a picture. What happens if we change how the rays are bounced? Well, we can create artificial decals, cracks, and basically change the depth of the specific place on a surface without actually changing the geometry. For that, we change the normal vectors in each pixel of our surface. A normal vector is a vector perpendicular to the surface at a processed point. If we virtually change its direction, the light rays bounce differently. And because a vector can be defined as XYZ coordinates, which is dangerously close to RGB color values, we can use a standard texture to store that. Like this one here. It's all just math. Learning is great, computer science is absolutely amazing, and the topics we can explore are endless. On the channel, we regularly work with Python and C++, but also Godot, for instance, and even JavaScript. I would like to express again that you should not overcomplicate the selection of your first programming language if you are just about to start and want to learn programming. It really doesn't matter that much. If you want some hints, check what companies are asking for in the field you are interested in. Would you like to work for Microsoft? Great. Go to their open positions and take a look. Would you like to work in game dev? C++ might be a good choice, but honestly, it doesn't matter. You can choose Python as an almost universal safe bet, and you will see how things evolve over time. Just understand how conditional jumps are made with if statements, how to write loops with for, and how to handle variables. With this, you can already program whatever you want. I even made a video about Turing machines talking all about it. After that, you can study the more advanced stuff, such as functions, classes, if available in your language, or how to import new packages, libraries, or headers, and then slowly start with algorithmization. You will have lots of fun, and by the way, in the end, you will most likely know more than just one language. It's fairly common in professional practice that you are very proficient in at least one, but knowledgeable about many more. Really, don't overcomplicate your first choice. It's most likely not going to be your only and one programming language from now until the end of your life. The great thing is that whatever basics you learn will be easily transferable to other languages too. So don't worry. A huge part of 3D graphics is linear algebra, and because math is something that is with us every day, we spend some time with it beside the computer graphics projects. First, we talk about combinations. How many variants do we have for a Rubik's Cube? Or game of chess? Why should we even bother with such childish things? Well, that would be a huge understatement. The number of combinations hidden behind these two is monstrous. It is so high that the human brain cannot even comprehend the solutions mistake-free, as it seems we will be able to enjoy the Rubik's Cube and playing chess against other humans forever, if they don't cheat. The good thing is that it is not always that complicated to spot a cheater. We touched on the topic of probability. Some things have a randomness that is at least partially predictable. We can safely say that if we throw a die 1000 times and there is a vast majority of sixes, the die is not fair. Simply put, in the world of big numbers, math can help us determine if everything looks okay or if something suspicious is happening. Because math can be scary, we talk about its direct connection with programming. It ended up as a collection of 3 videos, where the first one was by far the most successful. We learned about sets, about integrals, and even loops in mathematical notation versus C++ notation. There is a saying that you should know math to be able to do programming. Is it true? Not really. There is a part of software development where you absolutely need to know the math because you are literally programming the math, like in game dev. But honestly, if for instance, full stack development is your desire, math is not necessarily something you are going to cross paths with. One way or another, knowing math will automatically help you as it is a great exercise in abstraction. Even if you are not using it directly, you are benefiting from knowing its principles and keeping your brain busy. But is it necessary to know math for programming? No. Is it good though? Absolutely. Learn math. It's fun. It will help you understand how the world functions and how everyday things actually work, like RSA in security or the fast Fourier transform in signal analysis. Your music and your pictures. Isn't it weird that an image of 2000 times 2000 pixels can have just a fraction of the 10 megabytes it should take up? The answer lies in frequencies. Every signal can be decomposed into a combination of sine and cosine waves. Pretty neat, right? We call it the Fourier transform. In practice, we can use Fourier-like transforms for compression, especially using only the cosine. We analyze which frequencies are perceptually irrelevant in our signal and just forget them. That's how MP3 or JPEG works in a nutshell. We also recap the basic of computers. This is a video I decided to re-record and slightly improve because the original upload had mono sound coming only from the left speaker. We discussed how things work, from an electric signal all the way up to a specific action you can see. You know why we use 0 and 1, what a processor is, what a memory is, and how they cooperate to do what you ask the computer to do. Electricity at different voltages generates zeros and ones, which are represented as numbers that code for specific instructions. Their number might not be as high as you would expect, especially in older CPUs, but their combination is what gives you unlimited options. When you understand what is happening under the hood, you are just a little step away from reverse engineering, from hacking, cracking, or whatever term you want to use. I published 2 Crack Me challenges. 2 programs built specifically to be broken. Give them a try if you haven't yet. You run them, they ask for your passwords, and your task is to figure them out or bypass the protection entirely. We work with IDA, but on the channel I've used Binary Ninja as well. Remember, the tool is not the main thing. Understand the principles. You should know what you need to achieve to get closer to your goal, and only after that ask how to achieve it in the tool of your choice. As a first step, we take a quick look at the strings included in the file. Is there something we can use? There might be, or there might not. Most of the time, there won't be. The second thing might be to find the condition deciding if the input password is correct or incorrect. In a place like that, we can invert the logic and jump, or not jump, no matter what. If you have the time, you can dig deeper and analyze what the actual password or the logic behind it is, because it could just be an algorithm used to encrypt user input and compare it against an encrypted saved one. It might be easy or it might be difficult. It might even be generated on the fly. You remember those old games where you bought a CD or DVD and had to input a serial key? This was just a long string, numeric or alphanumeric, that follows some specific pattern. When you uncovered the pattern, you were able to write a keygen. After that, you pack it with a Trojan horse, a keylogger, or just a virus for fun and distributed it on the internet. Talking about old times, we used to need a printed manual to be able to prove we bought the game. Imagine you are playing, having a blast, enjoying your time, and all of a sudden getting hit with what symbol is printed on page 12 of the manual. You get it wrong, and your game ends right there. In the video, we talk about exactly that, and correct Prince of Persia too. You can open your software in a debugger, identify target bytes to analyze, dump memory to a file for a closer look, and finally patch the instruction deciding if you succeeded or not. Or just bypass the check entirely. It's your decision. There are more ways to protect your software with symbols or passwords. As you can see here, it is not a good idea to put them into your program in plain text. You can try different approaches to reading them, but it makes little difference. It's better to encode them or encrypt them using XOR or something more advanced like hashing function. So these three things are a big no-no, while these two things might be the way to go. We went through several interesting projects, mostly in C++. A ray tracer in text mode? Yeah, the mathematical background of this popular technique is actually pretty straightforward and understandable. So much so that you don't even need graphics at all to show it. You have a ray coming through the environment and bouncing off objects. If it bounces particularly well at the correct angle to get into your eyes, you can see objects that are very natural and easy to describe for this are spheres. We assume our ray to be perfectly straight. Let's be bold and ignore gravitational lensing. So the ray-sphere intersection points where the hit actually happens can be solved via a quadratic equation. How, you ask?
Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. That's insane. That's absolutely insane.
Speaking about rendering in the console, we can do more than just spheres. We can do cubes or, in general, any object. Really, we have vertices, we have edges, and if we know how to draw a line, we have everything we need. Just a little sprinkle on top and we can load external files, such as OBJs. And then the DOS. Once you have the basic rendering, it is not that difficult to connect external logic. OBJ files can be binary or not, and the human readable format is basically exactly what we talked about before. Vertices and edges. We also tried a little animation inspired by the Matrix. Raining code, looking at the reality through movie lenses. In a few steps, we saw how to control the console, how to think step by step, and how to start from just one foreign character to a whole screen where each one has a distinguished gradient trail. I also used C++ to explain something specific about computer memory and maybe not so obvious utilization of variables. You might guess that a pixel using RGBA needs 4 bytes, but is it that obvious that you don't need 4 separate bytes? Or even an array of 4 bytes, but literally one 4-byte long variable? You can use everything just partially. We call this masking. Together with bit shifting, you can do really interesting things. For things you frequently need to use together or in short succession, it is best if they are stored one after another in the memory. A topic I would like to explain in 2026 is ECS, or Entity Component System. There is a principal overlap there and hard utilization of the idea keep related things close to each other. We touch on the graphical output as well, for which I introduced my simple engine. It is built around the JVID X9 pixel game engine, with the graphics API changed to DirectX and support added for InGUI. It is super easy to use, and there is even a lightweight version where you include one header into your project and add 2 shader files. Maybe someone could improve it in a way that those explicit shader files are not going to be required. How about you? We use a simpler version for the demonstration of animation fundamentals, easing function. When you want to achieve specific values, such as speed, you might need a way to simulate getting to that point slowly, or faster at the beginning and slower at the end. You might even simulate bouncing, like a ball being on a string. Using the engine, we can plug in math and apply it to, let's say, circle. This is a great way to understand math, or physics for that matter. Take the formulas, translate them to code, and use them for some practical demonstration. You can do it for many things, literally almost everything if you are creative enough. I really like it. Visual learning is the best, and when connected with doing things practically, like actually programming it, it is amazing. You know where else we can see math visually? Shaders. A long time ago, something called the demo scene started. A bunch of people trying to squeeze the maximum from limited computers back in the day to create stunning animations. It looks surreal for those who didn't understand computers and jaw-droppingly challenging for others. Nowadays, we can create stunning animations in a pixel shader. It is not their primary purpose, but who cares? I would like to make a series explaining how to make a 3D engine, a software renderer, emulating what the GPU is doing, including the shaders, at least in principle. But until that time, we did a few projects in pixel shaders and ShaderToy. We went through the basics, like what a shader is and how it behaves. Imagine the GPU as a massively parallelized machine able to process thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of pixels in parallel. For shader programming, you should think big, like in a complete picture. Take this tunnel effect. You should ask how each pixel should look right now, not something like how each pixel should look with respect to each other. I can easily change the screen to red by returning the red color. Don't forget, this program, the shader, is executed for every single pixel on the screen. It is better to say in the triangle, but in this case we have a rectangular screen, which is, well, 2 triangles. It is not like you know nothing about a pixel that would help in its identification. In real-life graphics programming, you can assign anything you want to each vertex, and it is going to be interpolated to the surface of the triangle afterward. But one of the things we have here is position. We can take the screen resolution and do what we call normalization, basically rescaling a range to 0, 1. It might be -1, 1, but here we use 0, 1. Now I can say that everything below 0.5 is going to be red and the rest will be blue. Easy, right? The programming here is really just math. Check this out. 5 different concepts. The Batman logo, a bunch of equations. Goniometric functions layered over each other, fractals. You can very straightforwardly visualize whatever you want. If you lean more towards vertices than pixels, we also talk practically about perspective. I'm a huge fan of connecting concepts together, especially when there is a chance of connecting art and technology. Computer graphics is exactly that. And what is the closest thing to it? Drawing. Or painting, whatever. You can understand better how reality works and, by implication, how computer graphics work if you understand how to draw in perspective. 1 vanishing point, 2, 3. We can have even more, but things get pretty funky pretty quickly. Next year, I would like to expand on this and explain what 1D, 2D, 3D, and so on actually means, plus weird stuff like 2.5D or 1.26D. No joking. Perspective is just one thing. From the beginning, you have your model. You want to put it into the world. You want to add a camera, and based on the camera parameters, you want to project everything to the user. That is how a 3D world gets rendered on a 2D screen. If you think about it, it looks non-trivial. But math, linear algebra in this case, is making it very understandable, doable, and what is important, parallelizable. Don't forget, if we want to use the GPU, parallelization is something we should definitely utilize. And thankfully, with matrices and vectors, it is quite natural. Next, you can check out your intuition. The chances of 2 people having a birthday on the same day must be astronomically low, right? Not really. You only need 23 people to make it quite possible. We already touched on very large numbers, but we can take it one step further, to infinity. What if we have a shape which you can't cover with paint, but can fill with paint? Sounds weird, but theoretically it exists in the wild lands of mathematics. Gabriel's horn. Talking about math, because plenty of people might have a hard time imagining what mathematicians actually do all day besides solving weird puzzles and computing tons of equations, I shed the peek behind the curtain. My experience comes from years at the university and years in a mathematical institute. Long story short, we mostly try to model things around us. My specialization was computer graphics, surprisingly I guess, so pixels and their relations. My main focus was image in painting, so if a pixel here is missing, what could its value be? The answer lies in its surroundings, statistically speaking. Things can get complicated, but for plenty of cases, especially if the damage is not significant, it is not necessarily super difficult. I might make a video detailing it. We can stay in academia for a while and check this out. 3 years of computer science in a few minutes. It is a quick summary of the topics you will learn during your bachelor's studies, things you are going to face or most likely already know or have an idea about if you are a professional. Programming, algorithms, data structures, networks, statistics, databases, computer graphics, of course. There are quite a lot of things you might not even know exist, but right after 3 years you will have a pretty solid understanding. On the channel, we frequently use C++, but for certain projects or just for demonstrating various things, we can use Python as well. I really enjoy the make your own gamebook engine. As a kid, I really loved gamebooks. I had plenty and always watched for new ones coming to the local library. Making something like that in Python is pretty simple. In its basic working, it's just a text file parser extracting paragraphs of text and printing them in a specific way. Once you make it, you can develop your own stories and very easily distribute them to anyone you want. You can join the Discord and do it there. I also revisited one older idea. Rock, paper, scissors. I made a video like that in 2024 in C++. It was my first video that reached 1000 views, so it will be forever special for me. However, it is really broken. The topic is solid, I think, but I made a mistake and the audio is broken. Again. So I made a new version and expanded on it. Same project, but once in C++ and once in Python. Same things, but not really the same execution. I believe that projects like that are great when you already know one language and want to naturally grasp another one. Just do the same thing where you already know how the internal logic and algorithms work, so the burden of the new language will be only in its syntax. Python is also used for backends. In this project, we created a simple server and developed a JavaScript frontend to demonstrate how you can send data back and forth and communicate, let's say, from your computer to your phone. Someday in the future, probably the far future as I say now, I would like to develop a project for a smart home, connecting appliances together and having fun doing weird things with them. Not anytime soon, I guess, but it definitely is something I would like to touch. Not only programming languages, but also tools were a topic, in particular Godot 4. We went through the basic setup of a 3D scene, including textures, cameras, and physics. You can make your own world quite conveniently. With Engine at your disposal, the graphics are usually something that needs extra care. You can graylog whatever you need or use websites like Sketchfab to find something usable as a placeholder. You can even utilize AI. Especially for 2D, it works great. Of course, I would recommend using AI-generated content for just placeholders and afterward hiring a real artist to do assets for your game, but it is up to you. You can also reuse already existing assets, like sprite sheets, to recreate something you liked as a kid, such as Commander Keen. Projects like that are great. It naturally makes you interested in what you are doing and keeps you motivated as you know where you would like to end up. If you don't know what your next project should be, try to look around at the game you like or application and simply recreate it. Next year, I will definitely try a games mashup as well, having something on my mind already. That was a year with the channel in a nutshell. The subscriber count grew from a few hundred to over 3,000. Views are over 80,000, which is crazy to me. I talked about it before, but to me, as a person who spent many years teaching, the reach of these videos and YouTube as a platform is fascinating. It's also incredibly efficient. If you have 100 students listening to you in a university setting, you have to be there for every class, explaining, having a slide deck if you wish, but for each and every new group, your presence is required. Here, tens of thousands of views for something I did once, available for whoever wants it, forever, if YouTube allows. Thank you all for being here, for learning with me, and for interacting. It was a great year. We will see each other next time with a new dose of computer science topics, so enjoy the holidays and ciao!